We
Hey,
did
greetings.
it. We did it.
Wow. Wow, we beat the system, man.
I'm telling you.
Wow, it's incredible. Yeah, sorry about the confusion. That's undoubtedly caused by me changing my username.
I don't know,
Trying
man. I seem to have a lot of gremlins whenever I'm using Google Hangouts. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but anyway, this should work. Every once in a while, I get funkiness with this software I use when I edit this kind of video, but let's take a shot at it.
Okay.
Let's see how. And do you see, James, like if you move your cursor around, do you see a little icon for a camera?
Let me see. I have a camera with a line through it. I guess that means turn off.
Yeah, go ahead and click that and it should turn you
Yep.
on. Beautiful. There you are.
Aha! There's me.
Excellent. All right. So, what I first usually ask people before I start the interview is, and thanks for taking the time, man. I know you guys are just chilling there. I appreciate you making the time, man.
No worries, no worries. I'm really looking forward to having a chat.
All right. Lily was incredible, man. I don't know if you saw it. We covered so much in that thing.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing that night. Yeah, it was
awesome.
great.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I learned a few things about Lily myself.
All right. So before I start, is there anything you would like me to specifically include or exclude from the interview?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. All right. So, and should I refer to you just as James through the interview?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, James is fine.
Okay. So, welcome, James, a.k.a. Violent Vegan, to Raw and Cooked Vegan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I hope my violence won't be too great on this occasion.
You know, it's funny. I get the vibe you're not a violent guy at all, James. So, but we're going to go into that. We're going to go into why you picked that. So, but the first thing I want you to do is, can you tell us a little bit about how you were raised? What was your family's take on diet, fitness, that sort of thing?
Yes. Okay. So I was raised in the very middle of England, in a place, a city very exotic known as Birmingham.
Okay.
I believe you have a Birmingham in the States as well.
We do. We have Birmingham, Alabama, and there's probably another one.
I'm sure. Well, I live in the original Birmingham.
Isn't that an industrial? It wasn't that?
Yes.
Part of yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the key kind of cities in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's not much industry left. It's mainly kind of people who operate telephones and printers and such things. I'm not sure.
Okay.
There are lots of yeah.
I got you.
There are lots of warehouses. To be honest, I haven't been back for maybe a couple of years, but it's also the birthplace of heavy metal.
Interesting.
Ozzy Osbourne is a Birmingham,
Okay.
Birminghamite.
Okay.
So yeah, I was born and raised in Birmingham. As far as a diet and nutrition, I guess my parents they were they were kind of health conscious and interested in kind of whole foods and things to an extent, within the confines of the traditional English meal, which means a piece of meat, peas, potatoes, possibly some carrots.
I'm sure you hear us always saying SAD, the standard American diet. I guess there's a standard British diet, is it SBD? Standard British
Yeah,
diet?
there is. It's in recent years it's kind of expanded a little bit. But when I was a kid, it was pretty much, I think, from the post-war era until maybe the early 90s, this kind of meat, two vegetables kind of formula. Nobody really kind of strayed too far from that.
All right. What was that? You know what? Are you familiar with Carrie McCarpet.
Yes.
She is hilarious. Yeah. And she said this line in one of her videos the other day that the British have a, what is it, an unspoken mild tendency for dissatisfaction, or I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. Yeah, so, we don't kind of shout out about our problems. We just kind of grumble when nobody's around.
Right, and does that get reflected in terms of diet, where they weren't too concerned with a really tasty, meal or that kind of thing,
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember anything really tasting very good. It was always, like really well boiled vegetables.
Yeah.
For pudding, I can't remember much about pudding actually. On Friday nights, we used to go to my grandma's house, and my grandma had this kind of complex that me and my sister were too thin, so she would give us these like huge dinners with various meats and potatoes and fried things covered in gravy, followed by these kind of sugary confections like covered in custard or something.
At the time, it probably tasted good, and I'm sure she did it with love, so that's cool,
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the kind of highlight of the week for me and my sister. And my grandma would always kind of lie about what she'd given us to my mum and dad. And on the next day, on Saturday mornings, I used to get these boils breaking out on my head and face. I think my body was trying to expel the toxins.
Dude, that's so true, man. That's so true. All right, so at what age, how long did you go before you started thinking, what's up with the diet thing? Maybe I'll play around with that.
Yeah, okay. I think I got to about 17. For this whole next section, these dates and times kind of change in my head. Every time I remember it, it's a little bit different. But I think it was about 17. I wanted to embrace the whole vegetarian thing. Looking back, I think my reasons were kind of slightly superficial. I think I was at a point in my life where I wanted to follow a kind of archetype. I wanted to have long hair. I wanted to wear loose-fitting cheesecloth. I wanted to be vegetarian. I wanted to be kind of like a mid-90s sort of version of Donovan. I wanted to be that guy, and being vegetarian was kind of part of that agenda.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
But I was vegetarian on and off until my early 20s, I think.
And would you say, James, that when you did that, was it kind of just the main principle there was no meat, and then you ate whatever else you wanted, and there wasn't really a nutritional element to it, right? Exactly.
No meat, and it's kind of ironic because during that time I really loaded up on the other animal proteins like cheese. I sometimes joke I was like a cheesetarian. During my student days, I'd just find whatever was in the cupboard and like put lashings of cheese on it, fry some eggs on the side.
Dude, that's what I was like when I was vegetarian. A lot of cheese, yeah.
Yeah, I really I was there was almost like more animal protein going in than before when I was actually consuming the meat. Yeah. And also I never cared about like checking the bag of chocolates to see if it contained like gelatin or anything. It seems odd to me now, but I was very loose in my interpretation.
Okay, right. But it was a beginning, and it gave you kind of some knowledge of it. So
yes,
yeah. And so that period lasted a couple of years, and then and I kind of rushed you through this, but did you have any fitness in your early life? Were you into sports at all, athletics?
Not really. I attempted skateboarding. I felt like I was the sort of person who should really be skateboarding, and I was really, really bad at that. I I bought a BMX, which I was also really, really bad at.
Dude, I sucked at skateboarding, man. I sucked.
Yeah.
And basketball I sucked at.
Really? Yeah, I wouldn't even know to begin with basketball. I think we played netball when we were when I was in primary school. Anything involving a ball, I was really, really atrociously bad at. So fitness was kind of not really part of my my life agenda at that time.
All right. So you get up through your 20s, and you've been vegetarian for a couple of years, and then what happened?
And then this strange thing happened, which I'm kind of remorseful of now. I joined a spiritual organization. I guess you'd call it. You might call it a cult. It's known as Falun Gong. You might have heard of it.
Oh, cool.
I was in this for about 3 years, maybe 3.5 years. Anyway, the Falun Gong literature managed to convince me that that it had this doctrine that eating meat was okay. Killing animals is not cool, but eating the animals was of no consequence because the karmic debt is accrued by the person who kills the animal, and the animal only dies supposedly because the animal itself has accrued a certain amount of debt which it needs to repay. So, from the Falun Gong point of view, there's a cycle of karma going on, and you consuming the meat is not. Whilst it might appear to be related, it is in fact not.
That's interesting. Now, tell us a little bit about this, because I've been curious about the Falun Gong movement, and it seemed like there must be something good there since the Chinese were so against it.
Yes.
The Chinese government, I should say. So
absolutely.
What were some of the principles that were beneficial?
Well, that's a very interesting question. That Falun Gong is supposedly, I say supposedly because it's hard to extract the crazy doctrine from the kind of what's good about it. It's supposedly based on 3 principles: truth, compassion, and forbearance. So the idea is to do this set of, I can't remember, maybe 10 or 15 exercises every day, very simple kind of Tai Chi style exercises, whilst at the same time practicing these 3 principles. And also there's a whole kind of exegesis of literature written by the founder, who's Li Hongzhi, and he was constantly publishing articles on his website, giving updates, often about the Chinese government. We do kind of group meditation to try and vanquish the evil.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Were there many Brits in this group, or was it mostly Chinese folks?
There were, I'd say, in the whole UK, there were maybe, at the time I was doing it, which is going back, gosh, I guess like 10 years now, 15 years, there were maybe 500, 500 or 600. But it was hard to say because there was no official kind of, this is the reason that the Chinese government found it so hard to crack down on. There's no official records. People just practice in their own home. Probably most of the practitioners in the UK were Chinese by birth. But yeah, there were a few native Englanders who mostly people who like me had become interested in martial arts and Tai Chi, mainly perhaps through Jackie Chan movies or something.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of these things, once you pick up the book and you do the exercises feel great. You read truth, compassion, forbearance. That sounds like a good philosophy. You read a little bit. There's no point enhancing the body without enhancing the mind. You think that sounds good. Aliens control the internet. I can sort of live with that. And and it kind of introduces itself a little bit at a time. And
James, that's a huge point. I think that is a great commentary on so many religious movements. You're making me think of like Scientology, the Mormons, and some of the popular religions too. There's like all these really basic principles that are pretty sound, and then you get a little further in and it starts to get more and more funky.
Yeah, absolutely. There was this kind of rule in Falun Gong that whenever you introduce a new person, Master Lee, as we called him, actually specifically says this early on in the book. You have to give people the book and tell them to start on page 1, read until the last page, don't go dipping in. And obviously, I can see why. We believe that was because the kind of the book contained a certain amount of this psychic energy which had to be absorbed kind of sequentially. It was quite a masterpiece in I don't know, psychological whatever.
It's very interesting, very interesting. And you know what I would say on that, and you tell me what your thoughts are. But a lot of good comes from things like that. Even though there's maybe some misguided nonsense in there, there was some good stuff in there.
Definitely, there's some good stuff. I found just the meditation, for example. I could meditate. I used to do the lotus position, and I could meditate for about 45 minutes, and it really used to still my mind down. And just taking these 45 minutes out of my day to meditate, I'd be kind of energized. It almost like I'd gain time just because I could be more productive throughout for the rest of the time.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a common experience from people who do disciplined meditation like that. It helps you kind of settle your mind so everything becomes more clear. You're more focused. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, and people were genuinely recovering from illnesses as well, and ailments that have been bothering them for years. And I think really it's because of that kind of mindset, that kind of newfound confidence, just taking time out to meditate.
Yeah.
Things like that. It really was kind of healing people. It's just a shame about the aliens and the that kind of stuff.
Well, it adds some color to it,
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: since you were regularly doing 45 minutes a day, did you tell for other folks that try to meditate? Did you have any challenges in the beginning where your mind would run all over the place and it would take a while for your mind to settle? And
definitely, I think that for me that never really goes away. You just do your best at. You just get better at battling it. One of the kind of tropes in Falun Gong is this whole thing about kind of mental noise and like the Falun Gong materials would often talk about once you sit down to meditate, animal spirits and demons and aliens will try and disturb you. It felt so true because I'd sit down, cross my legs. Next thing the doorbell would ring, or there'd be something going on outside.
That's a great point. It's like
yeah.
And why should we make any distinction between a UFO, an alien, or a thought? It's all kind of disturbing the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it all goes in the same way. I'll constantly. It's a bit like that thing. You tell somebody not to think about penguins, and all they're going to think about is penguins. So you sit down to meditate, and easily for the first few minutes, you can just get this, not necessarily penguins, but you get all sorts of things going on. I don't think.
All right, so you followed Falun Gong for a while, and then was it? This lasted for several years, I guess, and then at the end of that period, what happened? Did you become disillusioned with Falun Gong, and what happened?
I think what happened was, from the beginning there was a part of my mind which kind of was a bit kind of dubious, but I was managing to suppress that because Falun Gong was so kind of spiritually kind of nourishing, and it provided like a social framework. I had people to hang out with, the people I felt I could really connect with. What happened was, because of work, I moved. At the time, I was living in Cardiff, which is where I went to university, and then I moved back to Birmingham.
And where is Cardiff? Where is that located?
It's in Wales. It's the capital of Wales. It's about 200 miles from Birmingham.
Okay.
So I moved back because I got a job arranging dinner tables in an exhibition centre, and I moved back to Birmingham, and within about 2 weeks of being away from the group, almost like the spell kind of became broken, and the more kind of rational part of my mind started to take over, and I just thought, you know what, this is really I'm having a hard time believing this, and
yeah. What did you, by the way, what were you studying in school?
I did fine art, which I went to art college when I was 17, which is the same time as I started to try and become vegetarian. And I did many years of art college, because I went to a pre-university. I did 1 year, and then I did 3 years of university.
Okay.
I guess 4 years altogether.
And
I did fine art.
Do you have a favorite medium, or do you do a variety of different things? Or?
I always concentrated on painting. I'm not sure why. I was always inspired by the abstract expressionists of the 50s. I like the idea of really kind of making a direct connection from something within to the canvas through this kind of abstract medium. Just I would really be into like splashing paint, maybe eating a bit of paint and spitting it on the canvas. I wanted to break beyond the kind of figurative representational kind of style.
Not too in the not too distant past, I watched Pollock, the movie.
That's a great movie. Yeah.
Okay, so when you left Falun Gong, you go back. You got this job arranging tables. And what was the dietary situation then? So when you left Falun Gong, you could let go of the guiding principles in terms of diet and like, you know. So what'd you do next?
I think just through momentum, I carried on eating meat and so on. I moved in with my dad for a while, and his wife, or now wife, then girlfriend, who used to cook these big elaborate dinners. By that time, my dad had started to move a little bit beyond the English paradigm, and he started to have pasta, and because pasta was quite exotic, I remember. But he also started to experiment with noodles and these kind of tin sweet and sour sauce. Yeah. Things like that. But during the week when I would cook for myself, or fend for myself, not so much cook, I would just go to McDonald's or buy a Mars bar. I think I was very bad when it came to what went in my mouth.
I think like a lot of people, you know, you're just doing your job and you're not thinking about it. Yeah. So when was it that you started to think about this? What was it? Was it an ethical reason or a health reason? What got you into veganism?
Well, I kind of, after Lily and I met, which was skip forward a few years, I moved to London. I got a job fixing computers. I met Lily, and Lily at the time was vegetarian, and she said to me, like, why don't you become vegetarian again? And I was like, yeah, why not? Why was I eating meat? So I kind of went vegetarian again, and I think skip forward another few years, I really gradually started to think more and more about animals. I think it was working outside in Camden Market. I left my job fixing computers and started selling T-shirts and shopping bags in Camden Town Market. I used to look at the pigeons. They'd often get like fishing wire caught around their claws, And I remember one day in the pouring rain, it was swollen, like it's really swollen up. And it was trying to walk, but it was too painful. And I remember thinking, God, this is. And I made the connection straight away that this is because the pigeons are not in their natural environment. They're living on a canal where the people throw in the fishing lines.
Oh man. And
then I started to think more. I think we got our dog tails, and I started to make this kind of I gained this kind of kinship with tails, and it kind of broke. I made this just this mental bridge that there's not that much of a difference between species, and I started to think about what we're doing to the planet and to the animals, and then I think Gary Yourofsky happened. I came across one of his videos, and like most people, that was kind of the closing. That was the nail in the coffin for my old life.
Gotcha. Looking back, can you discern any health factors that were coincidental with these various diets? So like in your in 19 to early 20s, you had this kind of brief flirtation with veganism, although probably not a healthy vegetarianism. Then you went into the falun gong, and then vegetarian again, and then vegan. So how would you characterize your health as you move through these different kinds of dieting?
Okay, I would say I remember I can't remember much about my first vegetarian period. I remember when I went back to meat after that. I spent a lot of years working in McDonald's in the evenings, and I remember during that period I was very skinny, but I had constant. I think the word is increased regularity syndrome. I was just constantly visiting the toilet. I think IBS is the proper term.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I would be. It would just be kind of like slosh.
Yeah.
It was almost like my body was just like blah.
Yeah, just liquid.
Yeah. I never made the connection. I just thought it was something specific to me.
Yeah.
When I was vegetarian the second time, I remember I really hit the cheese hard that time, and I gained quite a lot of weight because I was really I was eating in England. I think we have them there. There are these meat substitutes called Quorn, Quorn.
I've heard of corn. I've never had it, but I think it's more popular in Europe. But I think they sell it here in some places. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to get really every night almost. I'd have some kind of Quorn product. They're like something from a kind of dystopian future. They're made out of fungus, kind of cooked in giant vats and then compressed into these burgers.
Yeah, I've heard of this stuff. I haven't been courageous enough to try it.
No, well, fortunately, they're not. The majority of their range is not vegan. So, one of the best things for me about going vegan was getting off the Quorn. I think my body has really thanked me for that.
That's funny.
Yeah, I gained a lot of weight during the second vegetarian phase. Also chocolate as well. In this country we have, I think more than any other country I've been to, these shops on the side of the street, they'll have like row after row after row of chocolate bars. Like I go visit the US and there'll be like maybe 3 or 4 rows, but here, there'll be like a wall. It'll just
really?
be like,
that's interesting. Well, and you guys, you probably have better chocolate there. You probably have like Swiss chocolate and stuff like that. Yeah.
I think, I don't know why. I know we don't have the kind of portions that you see in the US, the giant bags.
Yeah.
But we really do have this incredible love of, there are shops just devoted to kind of these various bars.
So because you went vegan and you were giving up dairy, that meant giving up most chocolate, right?
Yeah. That was. I'm so happy about that because I was just putting away. I think because up till recently, I was saying to Lily today. For me, health was it's a bit like money. It's something which I was aware that you need, but it was very hard for me to kind of be interested in.
I love that. I love what you're saying. Yeah, I think that's really common. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas now I've become, now health has kind of become a bit of an enthusiasm. It's a bit of a hobby almost.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting when you start getting some of the benefits. You realize how much better you feel, and yeah. Whenever you make a bit of progress, it kind of really it's motivating me to kind of keep pushing and trying to undo some of the past damage. Absolutely. So have you, coincident with your transition to vegan, have you gotten a little more interested in fitness, or are you not so concerned with that?
Well, it's funny you should ask. Now I'm also into fitness. I don't know if it's the propaganda that from all these various channels, but I've become interested in running.
Uh-huh.
I just got to 5K
Wow.
last Wednesday. I bought a bicycle. I've done some really long cycles now.
Wow. Okay.
What else are we doing today? We're in Wales at the moment, visiting my mum. We went out with the dogs and we did like a 8-mile walk. So I feel like now I'm kind of starting to gain the gift of fitness. I want to kind of keep getting more.
Yeah, just better and better.
I want the gift to keep giving.
Right. It's so cool that you and Lily are able to do it together. That's great. It's like you can support each other. It's good. Yeah,
I'm really, really, really lucky about that. And I think, when we transitioned, I was, even though it was technically my idea, I was kind of being a bit, because I've got this allergy to nuts, and I've got an allergy to nuts and a lot of pulses, so like soya, lentils, things like that. And I was thinking, well, in my old mindset, I was like, well, I would like to be vegan, but what would one eat? If in my head, veganism was just about these kind of strange concoctions made out of nuts and soya. And
right.
I was thinking, what would it? I don't know. I judged myself to be an intelligent person, but it didn't occur to me that there was any other vegan food.
Well, James, I don't think that's so crazy, because I think the vegan movement, if you went back like 20, 30 years ago, that's what it was, man. They were making those nut loaves and, sprouts and, So, I don't think that's crazy at all. Fortunately, it's evolved into something different, and people know you can do very well on just simple fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely. Fruits and vegetables. When people ask me, when people say to me like, "What do you eat?" I still get this question. My mom today was asking me the what do you eat question, or how do you fulfill your what was it she was asking? I can't remember. Calcium. Where do you get your calcium? And I just say nowadays when people ask things like that, I just say fruit and vegetables. As long as you eat fruit and vegetables, everything else seems to sort itself out.
I like that. That's very simple. You don't have to get into a big argument. That's great.
Yeah.
So on that note, let me ask you. Let me throw a couple of items at you and tell me what your conclusions are on them. So the first is vitamin B12.
Okay, B12. I think two things. Firstly, I myself take it's kind of a spray. You spray it into your mouth.
Yep.
Lily buys it. It's kind of but I was thinking, in truth, I'm not saying people shouldn't take it, but I think in truth there are very few people, probably no one on the planet, who knows the full story with B12. the more I've heard, the more I've learned, the less I think people really understand where it comes from, how much we generate ourselves, how much from other sources. I think it's very, people speak with so much authority on B12, whereas I think in reality it's just like Tai Chi. Nobody really knows what the truth is.
I like that. I think that's true. Yeah. Let's see. So B12. Now, when you do that spray, do you do that once a day or once a week or?
I do it once a day. 4 sprays under the tongue. When that runs out, I have some kind of tablets, which are 3 times weekly. It's like a ginormous amount, like 6 million% of your daily B12.
Yeah. Okay. And then how about now? This might be an interesting one for you, being in England. Vitamin D. Do you feel like you get enough sun throughout the year?
Yeah, definitely not. I think from the moment I started to worry about it until now, we've had a lot of sunshine. We've had like 2 heat waves, which is very unusual. When it starts to get dark again, which is soon, I've proposed to Lily that we do supplements. Lily's talking about buying some kind of device or constructing something. Maybe we'll get that organised as some kind of sun lamp. If we don't get that organised, probably we'll just take supplements. I know it's a thing.
Okay. All right. James, bear with me. What I'm gonna do is I'm getting some technical issues on our video. So what I'm gonna do, which will hopefully increase our chances of saving all this, I'm going to hang up on you, and I'm going to call you right back, and we'll have like a part one. Okay?
Okay.
I'll be right back.